Hey guys, Mr. Fackenthal here. Welcome to your first notes video of the year. The title of our notes today is going to be Chapter 1, Section 1. The title is Solving Simple Equations. And our objective today is students will be able to solve simple equations. Pretty straightforward. Take a minute, copy that down, and we'll move on. Alright, so our first key idea today is the addition property of equality. Basically, all that's saying is adding the same number to each side of an equation produces the equivalent equation. So if A equals B, then A plus C equals B plus C. We could say the same thing would be 2. We know 2 equals 2. So 1 plus 2 is equal to 2 plus 1. We added it to both sides of the equation. The subtraction property of equality is the same thing with subtraction. Subtracting the same number from each side of an equation produces an equivalent equation. If A equals B, then A minus C equals B minus C. It's important to remember over here that addition and subtraction are inverse operations of each other. Now I know I go kind of quick in these videos sometimes. If you need to, pause, go back, rewind, watch it again. Make sure this is really sinking in with you and you copy it all down into your notes. Alright, moving on to example 1. Solving equations using addition or subtraction. Make sure you get this title and example 1 down. We have 3 parts to this example. Alright, this should be a big review from last year, but we'll go over it again anyway. So they want us to solve the equation x minus 7 equals negative 6. Well, we have our steps listed over here. So the first thing we have to do is write the equation. X minus 7 equals negative 6. Okay? The next thing we have to do is the addition property of equality. So we're subtracting here. The opposite of subtraction is addition. So we're going to add 7 to both sides. Add 7 to both sides. Okay? The reason we added 7 is because we want to isolate x. We want to get x alone on one side of the equal sign. So we got to get rid of everything else that's attached to it. So x minus 7, so minus 7 plus 7 is 0. So this is now x equals negative 6 plus 7 is 1. So now we find out that x is equal to 1. Let's do that, and we can always check our answers by plugging what we got for x, by substituting what we got for x back in. So we have 1 for x. Take 1, plug it in for x. 1 minus 7 is negative 6. Negative 6 is equal to negative 6. If this is a true statement, then they will be equal. B, we want to solve y plus 3.4 is equal to 0.5. So again, we want to isolate y. We want to get y alone on one side of the equal sign. So first we'll start by rewriting the equation. Y plus 3.4 is equal to 0.5. Okay? Because we want to isolate y, we have to get rid of this 3.4. Well, we're adding it in the equation. The opposite of addition is subtraction. So we're going to subtract 3.4 from each side. Subtract 3.4 from each side. Okay? When we do that, 3.4, positive 3.4 minus 3.4 is 0. So we have y plus 0, because that equals 0, is equal to negative 2.9. 2.9. 0.5 minus 3.4 is 2.9. We can simplify this now. Y plus 0, well, anything plus 0 is just y. So our final answer is going to be y equals negative 0. I apologize. Y equals negative 2.9. So this will be our final answer for this one. We can check it. We can plug negative 2.9 back into the equation. So we have we'll substitute it in for y. So now we have negative 2.9 plus 3.4. That equals 0.5. So our equation is balanced. So we know that this is the correct answer. And our last equation is h plus 2 pi equals 3 pi. One really important thing to remember here is that pi is a constant, not a variable. Pi is 3.14159, blah, 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 goes on forever. We'll learn more about pi in our geometry unit, but for right now we just need to know that it is a number that's represented by this symbol. So we have h plus 2 pi is equal to 3 pi. Okay? We're adding 2 pi to h. We want to isolate h because that's our variable. H is our variable here. So we're going to subtract 2 pi from each side. When we do that, we are left with h is equal to pi. H is equal to pi, or 1 pi. Let's check it over here as well. When we check our answer, we have pi plus, get that out of the way, 2 pi is equal to 3 pi. Pi plus 2 pi, well, 1 pi plus 2 pi is equal to 3 pi. 3 pi is equal to 3 pi, so our answer is correct. Alright, this is going to be our second key idea. Our first one was about addition and subtraction, so we'll make this key idea 2. This key idea is about multiplication and division. So multiplying each side of an equation by the same number produces an equivalent equation. So if A is equal to B, then A times C is equal to B times C. And dividing, the division property of equality, dividing each side of an equation by the same number produces an equivalent equation. So if we have A equals B, then A divided by C is equal to B divided by C, because we're doing the same thing on each side of the equal sign. Remember, we want to balance it. If you do it to one side, it's got to be done to the other. If it's balanced, it is an equal equation. One thing you definitely want to remember from your order of operations is that multiplication and division are inverse operations. So multiplication and division undo each other. If you multiply by 2, if you multiply 4 by 2, you get 8, and if you divide 8 by 2, you get 4. Okay? Take a minute, jot that down, and we'll move on. Alright, example 2 is about solving equations using multiplication or division. So the first thing we're going to do is solve the equation negative 3 over 4n is equal to negative 2. Well, first thing in our steps over here, this will be number 1. First thing in our steps, number 1, is to write the equation. So let's write it. Negative 3 over 4n is equal to negative 2. Next thing we have to do, because we're multiplying here, we're multiplying by a fraction. To undo a fraction, we have to use the reciprocal. You should remember what a reciprocal is, but if not, a reciprocal is the fraction written pretty much upside down. So we'll multiply each side by negative 4 over 3. But whatever we do to one side, we have to do to the other. Negative 4 over 3. When we do that, the fractions cancel out, and we're left with n on one side of the equal sign. We're left with n on one side of the equal sign. Then we have negative 2, which is the same thing as negative 2 over 1. And when we multiply fractions, we just go straight across. So we'll have negative 2 times negative 4 gives us positive 8. And all over, let me fix that, all over 1 times 3 is 3. So our final answer is going to be n is equal to 8 over 3. So this will be our final answer for that. So we went through step 1, we wrote the equation, we used the multiplication property of equality and multiplied by the reciprocal to cancel it out. And that got us n alone on the equal sign. N alone on one side of the equal sign. Next, we'll move to B. We want to solve pi times x is equal to 3 pi. Pi times x is equal to 3 pi. So we have to remember pi is a constant, not a variable. You can't solve for pi. Okay? So we're going to solve for x. So we have, first thing we do is rewrite the equation. Pi times x is equal to 3 pi. Okay? Now, pi is being multiplied by x. Pi is being multiplied by x. So to undo the multiplication, we have to divide. We have to divide by pi. Divide both sides by pi. So divide both sides by pi. That gives us x is equal to, well, 3 pi divided by 1 pi. 3 divided by 1 is just 3. Pi divided by pi cancels out. So this cancels. Okay? That's going to give us, and then pi cancels, and pi cancels. So x is equal to 3. X is equal to 3. We wrote the equation, we used our division property of equality, dividing both sides by pi, and we simplified. We can check our answer with x is equal to 3. We plug in 3 for x, so pi times 3 is equal to 3 pi. Simplify it, 3 pi is equal to 3 pi. They're equal, so we got the correct answer. Alright, moving on to example 3, identifying the solution of an equation. So they want to know what value of k makes the equation k plus 4 divided by 0.2 equal to 5 true. First thing we got to do is write the equation, which is k plus 4 divided by 0.2 equals 5. Alright, first thing we have to do in this equation is divide 4 divided by 0.2. We want to simplify both sides. So first thing we can do is simplify this. So 4 divided by 0.2 is 20. 0.2 goes into 4 20 times. So then we're once we simplify this part, we're left with k plus 20 is equal to 5. Now we have k plus 20 is equal to 5. K plus 20, we're adding, so now to do the inverse operation of addition, we subtract 20 from each side. Remember, it's got to stay balanced. Alright? So, k, 20 minus 20 is 0, so that leaves k alone on the left side. 5 minus 20 is equal to negative 15. So that means our final answer is k is equal to negative 15, which means our final answer is A. Alright guys, and our last example today is going to be example 4, which is our real life application. This is usually a word problem in the examples. So, the melting point of a solid is the temperature at which the solid becomes a liquid. The melting point of bromine is 1/30 of the melting point of nitrogen. Write and solve an equation to find the melting point of nitrogen. So from this word problem, we have to put together an equation to solve. So in words, the melting point of bromine is, which is our magic word for equals, is 1/30 of the melting point of nitrogen. Over here they told us that the melting point of bromine is -7 degrees Celsius. So the melting point of bromine is -7. Okay? We do not know the melting point of nitrogen, so we're going to have to substitute a variable in for that. So we're going to let N be the melting point of nitrogen. So our equation is going to be -7, the melting point of bromine, is, which is our magic word for equals, 1/30 of times the melting point of nitrogen, which we're going to call N. So first thing we have to do is write the equation. -7 is equal to 1/30 times N. Okay, so now we want to isolate N. We want to get N alone on one side of the equal sign. So we're multiplying it by this fraction, 1/30. Well, to undo multiplying by a fraction, we multiply by the reciprocal. Okay? So we're going to multiply both sides by 30 over 1. Multiply both sides by 30. Multiply both sides by 30 over 1. Okay, so we're multiplying this by both sides. But we know that 30 over 1 is just 30, right? So it's just going to be 30 times 7 is equal to 1 over 30 N times 30. Okay? Well, 30 times 7 is 210, which is equal to 1/30 times N times 30. Well, because they're reciprocals, these cancel out, and that leaves N alone on one side of the equal sign. So our final answer is going to be N is equal to 210. So we know that the melting point of nitrogen is 210 degrees Celsius, because that's what we were working in the problem. So our final answer is going to be 210 degrees Celsius. Don't forget to label your answers. Alright everybody, thanks for watching your first notes video of the year. Don't forget to like and subscribe so that way you can get notifications when I put new videos up. Comment below if you have any questions, bring them to class. Alright, happy solving!